Dharmesh Kant of IndiaNivesh with us on the show with his thoughts. Dharmesh, good afternoon. Thanks much for joining in. HDFC Bank and Bajaj Finance, the two poster boys, banking NBFC, both of them are correcting. Would you believe that the correction would last? Or would you believe that shortly some money would start finding their way in?
Yeah, good afternoon, Neeraj. No, I don't think it will take time before some money, starts finding them and being deployed in either HDFC Bank or Bajaj Finance. So we are here. I mean, the correction is here to stay, and the market will slide down further. Though we may be near our intermediate bottom kind of a thing, but my point is not about correction being stopping. My point is what are the triggers which are going to take the stocks up from here? So the visibility of revenue or earnings which you see, whatever managements you have heard about, they all have sounded very pessimist on the outlook for Q2 and Q3, and these two are the best quarters for Indian earnings season. Be it festive season, be it marriage season, everything in the consumption driven themes all happens in these two quarters, and nobody is sounding optimist on these two quarters. So triggers for the market to go up from here, the stocks to have a significant buying traction, sustainable price traction looks unlikely to me. So more pen left, Neeraj, to my mind.
Well, yeah, the question mark will be when Rajiv Jain decides to speak to media after the numbers, and after that 41% AUM growth numbers. I think that they spoke about the 41% loan growth numbers that they referred to a few days ago. The question mark will be whether they are seeing a growth continuing or not. That's the key thing that you need to monitor. In about 60 seconds, we'll have the launch of Chandrayaan-2. Remember, carrying about 14 payloads, including 8 in the orbiter, 4 in the lander, and 2 in the rover. So it's a phenomenal achievement when it does happen. So we'll be bringing you live updates of that happening as well. So the markets may be going one way. We're hoping Chandrayaan goes the other way and does so successfully. The final countdown, of course, has already begun. It's India's most powerful launch vehicle, powered by an indigenous cryogenic upper stage. So that is the important. This is the first attempt to soft land on the moon and explore the uncharted South Pole.
The ground winds are too less.
Minus 1 minute.
When the ground winds are less, then the vehicle is designed to take much higher loads as well. Also, the upper altitude winds have been favorable, which means not much change from the earlier measured conditions. We always design the final rocket trajectory with measured winds, and thus the smaller wind variability means not much change from the design trajectory.
79 open.
Just T minus 33 seconds to launch. The excitement building up here on your screens. The close shot of the base of the Mark III, where you will see shortly the S200s igniting on the ground.
Minus 20 seconds.
T minus 18 seconds now.
अब आप ध्यान से अपनी स्क्रीन पे देखिए. अब आखिरी के 10 सेकंड बाकी हैं. अब मैं कुछ दिन के लिए अपनी वाणी को रोकूंगा. आप ध्यान से देखिए.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
इस समय आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख रहे हैं 2 S200 रॉकेट.
Plus 5 seconds.
दोनों का प्रज्वलन हो गया है और उससे 640 टन वाले मार्क III रॉकेट नौगन को ऊपर की ओर लेके जा रहे हैं.
We have a liftoff. We have a liftoff. A perfectly normal liftoff. S200.
First stage performance.
Okay, this has finally happened. ISRO's moon mission has been launched, and this is a historically monumental achievement, you would have to say. And we're going with the assumption, of course, a lot of this will be successful. It's India's second moon mission, launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. This is, of course, remember, a week after the liftoff was aborted due to a technical snag. But well, this time around we've had. Now Chandrayaan-2, from what I read, it's launched on board ISRO's most powerful launcher, as I said, the 640-ton rocket, which is GSLV Mk3. and it's been nicknamed Bahubali. Well, not an interestingly, so that's the other interesting bit. But yeah, this is historic. And remember, I think by the course of the evening, a bunch of stories and updates etc. will be there on all media platforms, because this is historic from an India perspective. So pretty interesting.
On your screen is Dr. Shivan, Chairman ISRO, flanked by...
Okay, so the launch has happened. Let's get back to the markets and get back to the conversation that we are having on stocks, which are doing quite the opposite really from what Chandrayaan 2 is doing, which is going up. A clutch of stocks moving down. Today the real estate pack has been taken to the cleaners as well. Everything from an Indiabulls Real Estate to a DB Realty to a bunch of others. DLF may be holding out, but some of the others have certainly corrected, and Nifty Realty too is down about a couple of percentage points. The NHB instructions, Dharmesh, lead to further issues for some of the mid-sized developers who used to rely on this 595, 1090 schemes. With that out of the way as well, do you believe that at some point of time we'll either see distressed sales or prices coming off, and that might only rock the boat more for some of these mid-sized developers which are under some issues?
Yeah, definitely. Because this was the only route, most of the developers were, taking for last 2-3 years, because 595 and 90 kind of schemes were doing for the bookings, and see, but this is from prospective effect. This is not from the retrospective effect. So this will give some relief as far as past sales are concerned. So I think, but yeah, going forward, real estate will be rocked more, and I think the prices will correct further, which will be a problem for most of the real estate developers.
Okay, let's address the battery makers which were weak in Friday's session, and we also had Amara Raja numbers coming out on Saturday. Amara Raja today has been trading with gains of about 1.5%, and Exide, after touching fresh 52-week low, has seen some bit of recovery from the lower levels and currently trading with gains of nearly 2%, almost at the high point of the day. Dharmesh, globally the lead prices have been softer, and also there were reports emerging how there's a price war now taking place between the two battery makers, and specifically looking at Amara Raja numbers, they have benefited from the benign prices. The margins have gone up about 300 basis points. Also considering they've not done too much on year-to-date basis, what's your view on these battery makers? Do you see some good returns can come in at lower levels now?
See, as far as top line is concerned, there was not any significant growth. It was a very muted single-digit kind of a growth which they have reported. Yeah, bottom line was up primarily because, as you pointed out, input prices were lower and the operational efficiency added to that. Given the kind of correction both the be it Amara Raja or Exide has taken, so some bounce back is there, but to my mind this is only a trading bounce back and nothing great about from a traction perspective. So for investors, we have advised our client that to stay away as of now for many auto ancillary and auto space. But from trade perspective, trade of say 5-7% more from here, both for Amara Raja and Exide can be on. But I don't think there is any sustainable kind of recovery happening in the battery making space as of now, because numbers are still bad. Automobile sales numbers are still bad, and it is likely to be so for a few more months.
Okay, pull up the intraday chart of HUL. Remember, the earnings come out tomorrow, and there is some bit of weakness which has come by, and the stock's trading almost at the lowest point of the day, down 3%. Remember, in the last quarter, the key thing I believe to be watched out will be the volume growth figure, plus the commentary which came out last time about how the rural growth has panned out vis-a-vis the urban growth. Remember, last time the management had highlighted the rural demand moderated from 1.3 times that they've been witnessing to about 1.1 times. Whether that scenario continues in the current quarter, that will definitely weigh on the earnings. Last 3 months, the stocks corrected about 4%, and Dabur also, which came out with the numbers on Friday, the volume growth was pretty strong, which was over 9%. Stocks off the day's high, 421 is the level currently. But let me first get a technical check on HUL ahead of the numbers. I mean, 3% lower right now. Would you take a bet?
A bit late.
1650 is crucial. If 1650 cracks for 2 days or a weekend, Navneet, I think we're going to lose 7% from there, because we've been hanging around at this level for almost 7 months in a range between 1650 1870, and we've come to these levels alternatively multiple times. There's a major distribution happening. Indicators are given sell on the monthly, on the weekly. I think it's just hanging on for dear life. The only thing in its favor is this is the 7th week in a row we are down from 1870 now to 1650. So maybe we take a final support at 1650 and give a dead cat bounce. But if and when we break 1650, probably after a bounce, I think it's going to tank.
Okay, Dharmesh, comment on some of these FMCG names and some numbers that have come out where we've seen stable volume numbers. Doesn't look like a fair bit of disappointment. In fact, on the contrary, a surprise positive. Would you expect the same from an HUL, and would you be a buyer in some of these names now?
I am afraid, I think HUL will set the tone for FMCG basket from when they announce the numbers. My own sense is around 4 to 5% kind of a volume growth and 1 or 1.5% kind of price realization growth. That is the blended relation. So net anywhere between 5 to 6% kind of a top line growth they will report tomorrow, and that is the scenario. No matter even if the PAT is higher on account of benign input price trajectory or operational efficiency, the stock will be punished more. Because rural and semi-urban areas, what dealer checks we have done, we have not got any satisfactory remark from any of them. So our dealer check says that the numbers will be bad for HUL. And Dabur may be an outlier because they have a very select category of products. They don't cater to the entire plethora basket which HUL has. So our own sense is stock price may correct further. Most of the correction has already been happened before the numbers have been announced, but I don't rule out 5 to 7% kind of a correction further from here. At that point, it definitely will merit a buy.
Okay, what did you make out of Interglobe Aviation's numbers? I mean, leaving aside whatever is happening at the promoter level, the operational performance is going from strength to strength. The stock now has crossed 1500, while obviously it has ceded some market share to SpiceJet in the recent data that we've got in terms of passenger traffic, but still 48% market share versus 50% is not all that bad. Dharmesh, that's for you.
Is that to me?
Yes.
Yeah. See, the numbers were, phenomenal and the rock solid kind of a number. And management said that this quarter they were expecting a good set of numbers, so nothing wrong with that. And they also guided for a slow Q2 numbers, which is again very honest and candid kind of disclosure which they have given. If you set aside the promoter thing which has been happening, if you look at only on the merit of Interglobe Aviation, I think it would not be fair to say that SpiceJet will take away their market share or SpiceJet will do much better performance than Interglobe Aviation. With 48% kind of a market share, it's a huge market share which they are having, and they were the first mover to take advantage of any things happening out with Jet. But at the same time, the valuation looks very, at the peak of its level at 1600, 1500 kind of a stock price. It's already on the upper end of the valuation trajectory. So I won't be a seller in HUL. At the same time, I won't be initiating a new fresh buy here. What would be the likely trajectory for me would be to stay put if I am holding Interglobe Aviation, and will continue to do so. SpiceJet, because if you look at the balance sheet, there's a remarkable difference between both the balance sheet, be it Interglobe Aviation or SpiceJet. So Interglobe Aviation is a debt-free kind of a balance sheet, very minimal kind of a debt, cash flows are robust, which will take care of any further plain acquisition. So any correction, if it happens because of the market being falling or something like that, if one wants to be in aviation space, it has to be Interglobe Aviation. So a buy from my side.
We'll leave it at that. Dharmesh, thanks much for taking the time out and being with us today and giving us your thoughts. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Neeraj. Thank you.
Well, stocks which are correcting, and some of these high PE stocks, one of